Did any of you come across the new American Eagle ad featuring Sydney Sweeney? It essentially relies on a physical appeal to promote a pair of jeans. Now, of course, this isn't on the same level as the explicit full-blown pornography saturating our culture today, but it still raises an important question. What exactly are we normalizing? Interestingly, Michael Knowles comments on this, suggesting that in some ways it's actually a step in the right direction because she's not overly exposed or dressed provocatively. Let's listen to what he has to say.
That's it. She's got a tank top on. She's not showing too much cleavage. She's got the most skin she's showing really is her shoulders and her feet. I mean, it is not, she's got baggy jeans on. It's not even that tight, but it shows some of Sydney Sweeney's assets. That's how she's selling the clothes. What passes for conservatism now is mainstream 90s liberalism. Bill Clintonism. Is there anything more Bill Clinton? Hey, honey, I love those jeans. Love American Eagle. That's what we get. And yet, I think this is still broadly a good thing, even though it's not perfect.
Now, I mostly agree with Knowles here. He rightly observes that compared to what we usually see in mainstream advertising, this ad is relatively tame. Sydney Sweeney is dressed in a tank top and jeans, and by today's standards, that's practically conservative. But here is where I respectfully push back. Even if the level of exposure is minimal, the deeper issue of objectification remains. Her body is still being used as a marketing tool to grab male attention and sell a product. It's not just the amount of skin being shown that matters, it's the intention behind the presentation, and for us as Catholics, that's where moral concern truly begins. With that in mind, let's hear how Bishop Barron frames this issue, because he brings clarity to a conversation many people reduce to modesty debates. Let's listen.
That pornography is, underneath all of that, a moral issue that's not even approached. Well, of course, the church's perspective is that that's our fundamental problem here. Pornography represents a deep distortion of the meaning of human sexuality. It represents a keen objectification of people who ought never to be objectified. I mean, it anticipated Kant by many centuries. Kant, who said that human beings should never be treated merely as a means, but always as an end in themselves. Quite right, says the church, it's based upon the biblical idea of the dignity of the person. We would argue that because pornography is first and foremost a moral problem, it will give rise to a lot of psychological and physiological problems. We're not surprised by that at all, but the fundamental problem is a moral and ethical one. Here we come up against, it seems to me, a real cultural block when we try to talk about the moral danger of pornography. The cultural block is grounded in Freudianism. What a Freudian would tend to see simply as a suppression or repression of the sexual desire, all these prohibitions and laws and so on. The church would say, no. Those are the guarantee that sex, which is good. I want to clearly emphasize that. The church is not puritanical about sex. Everything God made, including the body and all of its desires, are good, indeed very good. We're not Puritans, we're not dualists, we're not Gnostics. The church likes sexuality, but it wants sexuality always to be in relation to love. So what a Freudian might take to be repression or simply an old taboo, the church would say, no. These are the means by which the connection between sexuality and love is maintained. And see, it's all on a spectrum.
To summarize what Bishop Barron is essentially highlighting, I will break it down into 3 key points. First, the Catholic Church is not prudish or puritanical when it comes to sex. On the contrary, the Church affirms that sex is good, beautiful, and sacred when it exists within the proper context, that is within marriage, where it serves the dual purpose of procreation and spousal union. The problem isn't with sex itself. The problem is with how it's misused, distorted, and commercialized. Second, when the Church condemns sexual exploitation, it's not trying to suppress natural desire, it's defending the dignity of the human person. The pornography industry and much of the advertising world thrives on the objectification of women, reducing them to parts, images, and symbols of lust rather than recognizing them as a whole person made in the image of God. This isn't about modesty versus immodesty, it's about dignity versus degradation. Third, and perhaps most critically, the idea that a woman would willingly degrade herself for fame, attention, or money is a lie sold by culture. No self-respecting, self-dignified woman naturally wants to be used, but many are conditioned to believe that objectification is a form of empowerment. That's the real tragedy, because the pornographic mindset doesn't begin with nudity. It begins with a subtle shift in how we view people, treating the body as something to be displayed and consumed, even when it is fully clothed. So yes, while I agree with Michael Knowles that this particular ad is modest by comparison and may seem like progress, it still carries a moral flaw because Sydney Sweeney is still being objectified to sell a product. The ad may not scream exploitation, but it certainly whispers it. And that whisper matters because it slowly reinforces a cultural narrative that separates the body from the person and the person from their God-given dignity. I hope this video is helpful. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. God bless you.